Hello there. My name is Fernando. I'm 24 years old, born and raised in San Juan del Rio, a small town in Querétaro. I've been following your channel for a while now, and I really enjoy it. That's why today, I want to share a personal story with you. A story that even now I can't fully explain. My family is small. My parents, my younger sister, and me. She's 19 years younger than I am, but despite the age gap, we've always been close. A year ago, I moved out, yet the bond with my family has never weakened. When I was about 6 years old, my parents and I moved into a house owned by my grandmother. At first, it seemed like a regular home, but my parents often noticed strange things. Shadows, for example. Shadows that looked like a little girl darting around the house. At times, they wondered if it was me playing tricks, but then they'd find me somewhere else entirely and realize, no, it couldn't have been me. Years later, when my sister was born, we moved to another house, one that belonged to my parents. But even there, the same strange events happened. Again, the feeling of a little girl being around. My parents never had answers. And that brings me to what happened to me. For a while, my sister and I shared a bedroom. Her little bed was right next to mine. Some nights she'd be restless, calling for mom, or even jumping over to my bed before running out of the room. She was only 4, but full of energy. One particular night felt like any other. It was cold, late into the night. Half asleep, I felt her bed shifting, as though she was moving around. Annoyed, I told her to settle down. But then, I felt the weight on my own bed, the sinking of the mattress, exactly like when she'd jump onto me. I thought it was her, until I felt the blanket being tugged away from my feet. Frustrated, I sat up and shouted, "Enough, Sabina!" That's my sister's name. And then, I saw it. A tiny shadow at the edge of my bed. Small, barely visible, but definitely there. I turned, and to my shock, my sister was sound asleep in her own bed, snoring. The strangest thing? I wasn't afraid. Not then. I didn't feel chills, I didn't scream. I simply lay back down and drifted to sleep. It was only the next morning that the weight of what I'd seen truly hit me. My mother tried to convince me it must have been a dream. But I know what I saw. That same shadow. Maybe the same little girl who had followed my parents for years. My grandparents live in an old neighborhood of Mérida, Yucatan, called Garcia Jiménez. Big houses, long patios, and a family home with plenty of history, and plenty of strange stories. The house once included the land of a small, abandoned school. My family bought it, tore down the walls, and created a giant yard. For us kids, it was paradise. I grew up there with my cousins, Alex and David, and my brother Ismail. Thursdays were our favorite because that's when my grandmother and mother went to visit our great-grandmother. We had the house all to ourselves. We were 4 kids, running wild through a house that felt endless. And our favorite game? Hide and seek. I was 12 at the time, David 11, and Alex and Ismail 9. Hiding in that huge house and backyard felt like being inside a fairy tale. Like Narnia. On one particular game, I had already found Ismail and David. The only one left was Alex. I checked every corner of the house, every inch of the yard. Only one place remained, the workshop, and we never liked going there. It was our grandfather's domain. He repaired pianos, blasting eerie music that sent chills down our spines. Later, he admitted he did it on purpose, to keep us away from the dangerous tools inside. But that day, determined to win, I headed toward the workshop. Through the crack of the old wooden doors, I saw them. A pair of eyes. Small, pale eyes staring at me before slipping out of sight. Alex. Blonde. Fair-skinned. I recognized him instantly. I grinned. Perfect chance to scare him. Quietly, I crept closer. 2 meters away when I froze. A noise from the rooftop. And suddenly, Alex jumped down from the bathroom roof, laughing, ready to beat me back to base. Behind him, my brother and cousin cheered him on. I stood in shock, because if Alex was on the roof the entire time, then whose eyes had I just seen in the workshop? I didn't wait to find out. I ran. We never played hide and seek in that yard again. And finally, a story from my father. He's one of the most skeptical people I know. But this is something that shook him to his core. At 24, he worked for the Federal Electricity Commission in a remote area of Puebla. One Friday night, his boss ordered him to deliver urgent funds to a distant village. Reluctantly, he agreed and set off with a driver in a worn-out truck. The road was dark, heavy, endless. Midnight came. They reached the village, but the workers had already moved on. The driver refused to go further, clearly afraid. My father convinced him with extra pay. But soon they got lost. In the middle of nowhere, they spotted a faint glow, a fire. Following it, they came across a tiny hut. Through its wooden walls, they saw an eerie scene. Old men dressed in white, some sitting in meditation around a blazing fire, others nearly naked, all silent. My father called out, "Good evening." No response. He called again and again, until slowly an elderly woman stepped outside. Her braids reached the ground, her hair silver white, her eyes a lifeless gray. She didn't speak, just pointed insistently for them to leave. They obeyed. Later, in the forest, my father heard something. Branches snapping, presence moving closer. Then, from behind a tree, a massive white figure emerged. He called out nervously, "Good evening," and then came a sound. A guttural groan, like a cow, but not quite. Something unnatural. As it approached the truck, the headlights suddenly died. Total darkness. When the lights finally flickered back on, the thing was gone. The driver swore he hadn't touched the lights, and even stranger, he claimed he hadn't seen anything at all. The next day, locals told my father a chilling legend, that sorcerers and shapeshifters gathered in those woods, drawing power, and that the woman he'd seen matched the description of a witch who had died years ago. They even told him about men who had once been lynched and hanged from the very same tree, where he had seen that white figure emerge. My father never forgot that night, and now neither will I. That's my story. Thank you for listening.